Through the centuries, Jesus Christ remains a figure who inspires millions of believers and scientists alike. While his spiritual teachings and works are closely related to Christianity, we want to look at aspects of his personality that may be associated with the philosophy of Stoicism. Strict morality, humility before God and fate, as well as preaching about love and mercy. All this is present both in the teachings of Jesus and in the basic principles of Stoicism. In this video, we'll look at what aspects of Jesus' teachings can be interpreted through a Stoic lens, and how these similarities can help us understand the deep spiritual context of both teachings. Stoicism is a system of beliefs and practices aimed at achieving inner peace and wisdom in the face of life's difficulties. The basic principles of Stoicism include the difference between things that are within our control and those that are beyond our control. The Stoics taught that we should focus on internal qualities rather than external circumstances, since only our reactions to events are controllable. Submission of the will to nature and reason. The Stoics believed that man should live in accordance with nature and reason, following moral and ethical principles. Acceptance of fate and humility before it. The Stoics taught that we can't always control what happens in our lives, but we can always control how we feel about it. Love and compassion for one's neighbor. The Stoics placed great importance on relationships, inspiring kindness, compassion, and support for others. I wonder how these principles of Stoicism can be related to the teachings of Jesus Christ. In the video, we will analyze which of these fundamental truths of Stoicism can be seen in the life and teachings of Jesus, and how they can inspire us to a deeper understanding of his spiritual heritage. To understand the Stoic side of Jesus Christ, it is necessary to look at his life and teachings, which left an indelible mark on world history and culture. Jesus Christ, as the central figure of Christianity, lived a life full of teaching wisdom and morality, and his teachings contain elements that can be interpreted through the lens of Stoicism. Jesus called for humility and renunciation of earthly riches. He lived his life in simplicity, demonstrating that spiritual wealth is more important than material values. This aspect of his teaching is reminiscent of the Stoic principle of the need for submission of the will to nature and humility before fate. Jesus often focused on inner peace and moral behavior. His moral teachings, including the Golden Rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, can be seen as consistent with Stoic ideas about virtue and morality. Jesus went through incredible trials and suffering, but remained humble and faithful to his calling. This demonstrates his ability to accept fate and submit to the will of a higher power, which is similar to the Stoic concept of accepting fate. Jesus often used parables and allegories to teach his followers. These stories usually contain deep moral lessons and wisdom, similar to the methods of the Stoic philosophers, who often turn to parables and allegories to convey their ideas. When we compare Stoicism and the teachings of Jesus Christ, we discover several surprising parallels and similar principles. In this section of the video, we'll take a closer look at these similarities and how they can complement each other. Submission of the will to nature and God. The Stoics encourage submission to the will of nature and natural law. Jesus' teaching also emphasizes submission to God's will. Both teachings suggest that man must accept and submit to a higher power, be it nature or God. Humility and modesty. Jesus calls for humility and modesty, similar to the Stoic idea of humility before fate. In both cases, this reminds us of the importance of not exaggerating our ambitions and values of the material over the spiritual. Compassion and love for one's neighbor. The Stoics encourage compassion, and the teachings of Jesus are based on love and compassion for one's neighbor. Relationships based on love and care for others are common values of both Stoicism and Christianity. Morals and ethics. Jesus preaches moral and ethical principles similar to the Stoic teachings of virtue and right action. The Golden Rule formulated by Jesus, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is similar to the idea of justice and morality in Stoicism. Acceptance of fate and suffering. Jesus, while facing many difficulties and suffering, remained true to his calling and submitted to the will of God. The Stoics also encourage acceptance of fate and the ability to endure difficulties with humility. Teaching through parables and allegories, Jesus used parables to convey his lessons and ideas, similar to the methods of the Stoic philosophers who also used allegories to teach. It helps students understand complex concepts through real-life examples. Although Stoicism and Christianity have their own unique characteristics and contexts, they complement each other in some aspects. The Stoic side of Jesus Christ can be understood as a synthesis of these two philosophies, warning us against greed, calling us to compassion and submission to God's will. Humility and tolerance are key values in both Stoicism and the teachings of Jesus Christ. Humility is a fundamental feature of both Stoic and Christian ethics. In Stoicism, humility means recognizing the limits of human power and control. The Stoics teach that we cannot control external circumstances, but we can control our reactions and attitudes towards them. Humility before nature and fate is the key to inner peace. Jesus Christ also exalts humility in his teaching. He takes on the role of a servant, washing the disciples' feet and interacting with ordinary people, showing humility and condescension in front of others. His words that "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth," emphasize the importance of humility. Tolerance is another value that Jesus and the Stoics encourage. In Stoicism, tolerance of others' mistakes and weaknesses is part of the understanding that we cannot control other people and that everyone has their own path. This promotes peace and harmony with the surrounding world. Jesus calls for tolerance and forgiveness. It teaches us to leave judgment to others and instead offer compassion and forgiveness. The parable of the prodigal son highlights this idea when the father forgives his son for his mistakes and joyfully welcomes him back. The combination of humility and tolerance enriches both Stoic and Christian practice. Humility helps us accept that we are not omnipotent and imperfect, which creates the basis for tolerance of ourselves and others. These values also help resolve conflicts and maintain harmonious relationships. Therefore, the Stoic side of Jesus Christ includes not only the teaching of humility and tolerance, but also examples of how to practice them. These values not only bring inner peace and harmony, but also have a positive impact on the world around us. The Bible, as the main text of Christianity, contains many teachings and parables that can be viewed through the lens of Stoic values. In this section of the video, we will look at several examples of which aspects of biblical texts reflect Stoic philosophy. Patience in suffering. The Apostle Paul, the author of many books of the New Testament, calls for patience in suffering and difficulties. He says, "We glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces patience, and patience experience, and experience hope." This is similar to the Stoic teaching that difficulties and trials can be a source of growth and development. Managing your emotions. The book of Proverbs says, "An angry man is like a fool, and a quick-tempered man multiplies sins." This is reminiscent of the Stoic idea of the need to control your emotions and reactions to external influences. Humility before God. An example of humility before a higher authority can be seen in Jesus' prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. "Depart from me if it is possible, but not what I will, but what you will." Kindness to others. Many of Jesus' teachings are aimed at encouraging kindness and compassion towards others. He says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will obtain mercy." This is consistent with the Stoic idea of the importance of compassion for others and support of those around you. Justice and equality. In Galatians, the Apostle Paul states, "There is no longer Jew nor Greek, there is no longer slave nor free, there is neither man nor wife. You are all one in Christ Jesus." This expresses the Stoic idea of respect for all people, regardless of their social status or background. These examples from the Bible demonstrate which aspects of Christian teaching relate to the fundamental principles of Stoicism. Blending these values can enrich our understanding and practice of faith by emphasizing the importance of humility, tolerance, kindness, and righteousness in our lives. When we compare Stoicism and the teachings of Jesus Christ, we see deep parallels in values and moral lessons. These similarities can serve as inspiration and a reminder of the importance of humility, tolerance, kindness, and wisdom in our modern lives. Practicing these principles can help us not only develop personal well-being, but also create a more harmonious society.